up, everybody, and welcome to the TJ Bowser Power Hour. This is your host with the most, TJ Bowser, and joining me today are the two lead actors of the upcoming Star Trek fan film, Warrior's Death, John Lund and Leanne Johnson. Welcome to the Power Hour, guys.
What's up, TJ?
Hey, TJ.
So, John, how was your week?
What day is it?
Today is Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly. What month is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have so many different projects going on right now. My head is spinning, and I'm not always sure what day it is. But I think if I'm busy, it's better than being bored. So things are going well.
Good. What about you, Leanne?
Oh, I'm in the same boat as John. It's been nuts, and that's a good thing. Like, I'd rather be stressed out because there's so much good stuff going on than stressed out because there's nothing going on. So, I mean, coming from a couple months ago to now, this is such an improvement. So I'm not complaining at all. But yeah, it's been really busy.
I think that's the key to staying sane during the pandemic times, is to stay busy.
Yeah, definitely.
So I have a couple questions for you guys today, and I'll ask the question, then John can go, then Leanne can go, or vice versa. They apply to both of you, so it doesn't really matter. So, John, what inspired you to get into acting and not some other profession?
I realized at a young age that I'm really not good at anything other than playing pretend. It's actually kind of a weird journey that took me to acting. Really, from a young age, I always wanted to perform. So, like the first CD that I ever owned was Bon Jovi's "Slippery When Wet." And I went crazy for this as a 5-year-old, right? And like every night after dinner, I was doing like Bon Jovi concerts in my parents' living room. You know, I had like flashlights set up, and I had like this old little microphone that wasn't hooked up to anything, but it was like my microphone prop. You know, and I was just living on a prayer, going crazy. And like I just always loved this. Like in school, I was always the class clown. In elementary school, I used to have this like Elvis routine, but it was like stripper Elvis. So I'm like 8 years old. I'm getting up on my desk before recess, you know, so I could wear shorts. And I would do like this stripper Elvis routine to strip down to shorts and a T-shirt to go outside to play. And like my mom got so many phone calls from the school about me, but it's like I was harmless kid, right? But then, like, as I got older, my parents were like, okay, you know, yeah, you have this creative side, but you should actually do something that makes money in life. You know, and, you know, there are too many starving, struggling actors out there, so maybe this isn't the right path. So, you know, I took that on board, and I went to college and, you know, got a bachelor's degree, but I was still interested in acting. So I ended up moving to the Czech Republic, where I did an MBA. But I started taking acting classes in Prague. And this was like in the late 90s, early 2000s, when like Prague was kind of blowing up as an awesome place to shoot. So you know, there was the emergence of this like crazy film culture over there. And I was trying to get into it. Moved back to the US for a bit. I was in the Army and did some other things. Then I moved to Finland. And in Finland, I started getting involved in community theater. Like I was just like, I couldn't kick this sort of urge that I had to be involved in the acting community. I was doing community theater and started making like some really terrible short films. And like I was trying to be involved, like terrible. And I started getting involved with this sport called wife carrying. And I was trying to help grow the wife carrying event. The World Championships of this crazy thing is in Finland. And I started inviting like VIP guests to this thing. Like I invited like Dolph Lundgren to it. You know, that I had this idea that I should be in a Dolph Lundgren film. So I'm like, I'm living in Finland, right? I'm just some nobody. Yeah. I'm contacting like people in like Hollywood. I'm like, yeah, I have this wife carrying sport, and Dolph Lundgren should come to it. but like, you know, like I had passion and conviction, and people were like interested in that. So I ended up making some contacts that way. Then I left Finland, went to London, and decided I should also be a lawyer because I, you know, have to do whatever it takes to make money. So I went to law school in London, started working for a litigation firm. But while I was in London, I was also doing some work with Raindance Film Festival. So they offered a bunch of like night classes, and they offered some like filmmaking classes, and I was still taking acting classes. But like I still felt like I had to be a business professional. Then I got headhunted to work for an IT company in Austria, moved to Austria. I'm like an executive at this IT company, running their legal team and all this other stuff. And I'm still making films on the side. And then I start getting interested in like WWE wrestling, and like I'm doing like kickboxing and like all this crazy stuff. Ended up shooting a film in Austria. It got into a film festival. It won an Audience Choice Award. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, maybe I can make some money with this. Maybe I can have a real career. So I was like, I'm going to quit my job and move to LA. So that's what I did. And like my coworkers are like, you're insane. Like you're like, you're like at this company and you're going to move to LA to try to make films and do like WWE wrestling. I was like, yep, that's a great idea. And they're like, no. So I moved to LA and I did just that. However, I also started a consulting company on the side so that I wouldn't be a starving artist and, whatever. So I'm still kind of balancing that professional life and acting because I don't want to be a starving artist. But now I'm actually able to pursue acting and some other creative endeavors while I'm here in LA.
Awesome. So Leanne, same question. What inspired you to get into acting?
Clearly is equally remarkable as John's story. But I agree in terms of like having that desire at a very young age to perform. And that for me, it's just a form of expression. And some kids and some people express themselves through art in different ways. Like they might paint or play music and we all have that artistic side. And for me, it was extroverted. It was showing that through physicality, through words, through poetry, through, that type of thing. And so it was just very intrinsic part of me at a very young age. And my first stage memory was actually playing Cinderella's evil stepsister in like grade 5 was Drizella. And she had really curly hair and I had to have my hair in these awfully painful curlers. And it was the worst thing ever. And I thought, this is a one and done. We're going to do this performance, we're ready for it and then we'll be done with it. But it exploded and we were in a small town and we ended up like traveling all over doing this play at different schools and community theaters. And it just kept gaining momentum. And so I constantly had to put my hair in these painful curlers, like, just like performance before performance before performance. And, so for me, that's one of the earliest memories I have was just like, the sacrifices that we're willing to make to do our art. And, but it was fantastic. I really liked playing an antagonistic character, which is a bit of a mix up for this film in particular, being protagonist. But, that was at a really young age. And, throughout, high school and stuff, I was really involved in drama and that was a big part of my expression as an individual. I was very academically and athletically inclined, kind of like John. I mean, you're like a lawyer and you did, wrestling is same thing, not like law and wrestling, but I got a bachelor's of science degree. And so I have a really nerdy aspect to my personality. And I also have a very athletic part of my personality. I mean, I played all kinds of sports and did roller derby for like full contact roller skating, basically, quad skates, like, I have that physical aggressive aspect to me. But when I got to be like an adult, I would classify, growing up, I felt that I'd really miss tuning in with who I was like as an individual in terms of emotional expression. And so that's where acting came back into it. And theater would have been an easy choice for me. But film was harder because it's more vulnerable. You're so close to the camera, to the viewer, and you cannot lie or they're going to know. So that was the challenge for me, was to be able to convey powerful emotion, but being still, and to do that through what's going on inside rather than creating it on the outside and creating emotion from the outside. So that's what really brought me back into like film acting, was that challenge in particular.
Awesome. So John, as an actor, what do you consider a strength that you bring to each role?
Whoa. Like I'm kind of like an OCD kind of guy and rather intense. So I think I'm naturally drawn to those types of roles. and I think I can excel in that type of role. It's part of the reason why this Klingon, is so appealing to me, right? It's like I can be intense, like I can be me. I identify with kind of like this Viking culture, and it's like I can bring that side out of me. So I would have to say intensity if I was going to boil it down to one thing.
What about you, Leanne?
I actually wrote intensity as well. But in hearing, I don't think we're going to get along, honestly. I think we're just like, but I think I also thought about this and said, I'm not afraid to ugly cry. And I think where that comes from is I feel like women are portrayed a lot of times in film that's not accurate. And one of the reasons why I really respected Jeremy Brown for casting the way he did was I think that, he really looked at the raw emotion and, how I want to approach Anya and how I think all women are strong. And regardless of what position they're in, whether we view it as strong or not. And I think that's just an element I'm willing to not look good, to be honest and to be real in that moment. And I think that takes a lot of fearlessness to be able to do that in front of a camera where tons of people are going to watch. But I think it's so important if we are going to capture truth through film, through this medium. So yeah. So intensity, but also ugly crying.
Excellent. So John, what has been your favorite role you've played so far and why?
So I have to kind of split this into two different categories if I can. So it was like literally 15 years ago that I reached out to Dolph Lundgren's people and tried to get him to come to this wife carrying event. Okay. Fast forward to LA 2016, 17, somewhere around there. I actually stayed in contact with some of his contacts. And then they were filming something in LA, and I got to be a stuntman in a Dolph Lundgren movie, which was like a child dream of mine. Like, I'm not in the credits, I didn't get paid, but I took a shotgun to the chest and it made the final cut.
Hell yeah.
I was so pumped for that. And then I ended up meeting him another time as well, which was pretty cool. So there was kind of that. So the film is called Don't Kill It. And I'm really in there, and it's really awesome. But probably like the most fun role is one that I wrote for myself in this music video. I think some of you guys saw online, like The Revenge of the Christ, where I play Jack Jesus. And like on the surface, like I think it might not be clearly understood, but there's a strong political undertone there that is actually very pro-religious. And you kind of have to look for it. I can go into it another time. But I like taking a character and taking what the obvious choice is and flipping it upside down. So for me, that role was really interesting.
Okay. So Leanne, same question. What has been your favorite role played? Yeah.
Well, like this one, first of all, is going to be my favorite ever, but there was one that's it's in post-production right now, and it's a feature. And the character that I played, she really experienced a progression throughout the feature film. Like, she wasn't ever the same. Like, she started off so, just like so bad. And then you see this progression of her conflict to the end where she really arrives at this, moment where, she's actually the protagonist that you thought was the antagonist the whole time. And so kind of, when you're jumping in between scenes, when you're shooting and you're doing this shot today and this shot today and this scene today and this scene, it's not all sequential. And so for me, what I really liked about this role was how much I had to understand her as a person and to understand her change throughout this timeline, and to have such a working knowledge of that I could go to that place depending, like, no matter what scene or what sequence we were shooting in. And so I really just learned her. And that was really a point where I felt I really became a character that was, completely fictional. And that was probably my favorite role by far, just because of how trusting the director was for me to take this character and make her my own. Let's see if I can. I don't think I can reveal right now who that is or what the film is, but I will definitely be sharing that when it comes out.
I'm pretty excited to see you play Barbara Gordon.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So that's the other fandom question. We'll talk about it, because I absolutely adore her. Yeah. So
John, earliest memory of Star Trek.
So like my family is like Star Trek nerds. So like growing up, every night dinner was at 6 o'clock.
Uh-huh.
Okay. However, Star Trek, the first generation, with Captain Kirk, started at 7 p.m. Like, they were just running reruns on local television starting every night at 7 p.m. And my dad's rule was he didn't care what state dinner was in. At 7 o'clock, he was getting up and going to watch Star Trek. So then my sister and I would go with him. So if it meant we finish our dinner in front of the television at 7 p.m. watching Star Trek, so be it. My mom had to deal with that. So like these are my, I was probably 6 years old or something at the time. My sister's 2 years younger than me. These are my first Star Trek memories. Being able to leave dinner early to watch Star Trek on television with my dad and sister.
That's great. That is awesome. What about you, Leanne?
I used to come home from school, and my dad, shortly after coming home from school, because of our time zone, Star Trek Next Generation was going to be playing, and I just watched that with my dad. And I don't know, as a daughter, any time that you have with your dad is just sacred. Like, I remember so many memories with my dad, like him teaching me how to play catch and him teaching me how to play hockey and all those types of things. But coming home and having that moment with him where it was just our time and we could watch just this other world and these characters and just what they were fighting for, and the moral conflicts and the diversity. It was just a really special moment that I had with my dad, and he was always so supportive of my nerdiness and everything. So it's just, those moments are really special to me. And that's something that I remember. And so it does play a part in my life and in my growing up. So
awesome. Everyone's fandom starts somewhere,
On the topic of dads, when I told my sister that I got cast in this Star Trek film, she's like, "Oh my God, Dad will finally watch one of your projects." She's never seen any of my stuff. But she's like, "Watch this one."
Oh my gosh.
How did your families react to the trailers?
Like my sister loved it. Like, from the first moment that I told her that I was even auditioning for this project, she's like before I could even say Klingon, she's like, "You're a Klingon, you know that?" It's like, yeah, trust me, this moneymaker can only make money. Nobody's paying to see this in anything other than a bunch of makeup, some weird prosthetics,
I just think, seeing that original trailer for the first time and hearing Leanne's voice kick in, and it just chills immediately, and then the music hits, and then it's just so surreal. It's great. And then John, you killed it, man, with the powerful voice. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah. Dude, Leanne, when I heard your trailer for the first time, I was like, "Oh my God, this thing is going to be amazing." Right. I haven't seen any of your work, and you killed that voiceover. And I was super excited. I started sharing that with everybody. I'm like, "She is so good. Like, we are going to crush this film."
Yeah, that was the take I did, where I was like, I know the directions that's written in the monologue, but I'm just going to do it my way. I tagged it on at the end. I was like, "And Jeremy, here's one I did, where I didn't listen to you. And, if you like it, whatever." And he picked that one. But honestly, it was like what you were saying, John, about going the choice that's most obvious and then going the other direction. And that was the instinct that I had. And for Jeremy to trust that and for him to pick, I'm so excited to work with this production and this crew. But yeah, I was in my padded closet, where my wardrobe closet that I've used for quarantine voiceover and ADR. It's very astute. It's very professional. And I'm literally on the floor. And I remember getting to that mental place where it was if everything that you worked for was literally destroyed and you don't know if you're getting out of this, and she's still making this log, like she's still putting this log in here, like she's still doing her job. And I was like, to me, it demonstrated strength, like, and discipline. And so it just slowed everything down. Like I didn't feel she would be frantic. I feel like she would have expected this at some point with their training. So, yeah, but I was definitely like on the floor, like crying before that, and then be like, okay, I'm just going to do one, like where I feel like this is how I would do it. And then I heard it in the trailer and I was like, okay, I feel really good about going in to this production and seeing where this is going to go, knowing that we have freedom to make some interesting choices.
Okay, so the next round of questions are the ones where we judge you really, really hard. So, John, we'll start you off. Favorite Star Trek film and series?
Star Trek film. So I'd have to go with Star Trek 3, Search for Spock.
Okay.
And there are a couple different reasons for that. First of all, it's pretty Klingon intensive, right? You know, there's a big Klingon element to that film. But then if you look at who the Klingons are, it's John Larroquette and Christopher Lloyd, like two like these icons. And it like for me, that's just magic. You know, between Night Court, Back to the Future, like, you know, we're sitting there watching Klingons, and like that's just magic for me. I love that. Favorite series, man, I probably the original. I'd have to go with the original, and it's going to play into one of the other questions, but it's like that was a bold show for the era that it was made. Like it took guts to make that show back in that period. Mm-hmm. So like for that reason alone, that show deserves massive respect.
Yep. Leanne?
Mm-hmm. Okay, don't judge me. But okay, so you have to keep in mind like that. Okay, no, I'm just going to say it because you're free to judge. But the 2009 Star Trek, which was the reboot, I feel, of like the bringing in like the new generation of people to be like, what was Star Trek?
Yes.
But I'll tell you why, because I'm a relational person. And so like the effects and everything were fantastic. But to me as an adult, like watching this Star Trek story unfold, I really admired the story about like with Spock and how being half human and half Vulcan and his conflict, but then his relationship to Kirk, and then also his relationship to Zoe Saldana's character. And I don't know why I can't think of it right now, what her name was in the film. But just to me, it was something I hadn't seen so intensely explored. Was like how dangerous is it? How against the rules is that? Like how do you navigate that when you feel torn as an individual between two different worlds? Mm-hmm. And I felt like the bromance was so real in that between like the chemistry and it was so pure. And I don't know how else to describe that, but I just thought like that was really the chemistry between Chris Pine and Zachary it was perfect. And I felt like that was true friendship, like defined. And just because I'm very relational, I really like that. And of course there was explosions and love and intrigue and, you know, being an adult, not being aware of that as a kid growing up, I was like, oh wait, this is like racy and like dangerous and like, you know, and so for me, it was kind of like rediscovering it from that point. But yeah, the first one of that new series coming out. But
so does that mean I should have included Pike and for future questions?
I mean, you know,
I'll add it in there when I ask it then.
And then for series, obviously, like I grew up watching Next Gen with my dad, which is important too, but I did a lot of study for a character in another fan film in which I did a lot of study of the Voyager series. And I actually really enjoyed watching a lot of that series as well. And I think it was kind of underrated. I know people didn't like it, but I like the dynamic of the crew in that particular cast, and the casting stories are really crazy too.
Oh, yeah.
So I that's another one that I enjoy. But yeah, so a little bit more newer, not so much classic.
Zoe plays Uhura in the remake.
Yes, Uhura. Yes, so well done. Yeah, I love her. She's a theater based, like she started in theater, and just how she moves. Yeah. Anyway, I could go on.
So, John, the next question, you cannot pick Klingon.
Oh, you're killing me.
It's too obvious here. You know what I mean? So, if you could be a species of alien within the Star Trek universe, what would it be and why?
You knew I was going to say Klingon, so now you're really putting me on the spot.
Okay, say Klingon.
I can go with. I have a second choice. I can go with Vulcan.
Okay.
The reason for that is I really appreciate like this logical, rational, like precision of the Vulcans. You know, certainly as a lawyer, you know that's how I practice. You know, so I can relate to that character. You know, and then you know even when it's time for Spock, for example, to fight. Like, he just remains calm and he just executes. He does what he needs to do and he just moves on to whatever the next task is. So I can definitely relate to the Vulcans.
Leanne?
Klingon.
Oh.
You are after my role.
I want to be John because, he's so amazing. And I just like, man, he's my hero. They're warriors. I mean, when it comes down to it, I relate to that. So morally, maybe a little bit different in terms of some of the choices. But growing up in athletics and sports, and I grew up in very small towns, like growing up, and I grew up growing up in small. But I had to play with the boys, and I had to be better to get the same amount of play time because you just suck it up. You either got to be able to hang or you can't play. So I just learned to just toughen up and not complain, but work hard. And I think that mentality has really helped me to not give up in life. When things don't go your way, you can complain about it and sit and point fingers, or you look at yourself, be like, okay, well, if this is my situation, how do I get better? How do I improve? And how do I compete? And so I kind of understand that mentality within that race of aliens. So, yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so the next question, Jeremy, made me be very specific. So, John, are you a Kirk, Picard, Janeway, Archer, Sisko, Lorca, or Pike type of person?
This is easy for me again. So, absolutely Kirk. 100%. When I saw that question, there was no debate in my mind. And the reason for that is, first of all, there's the acting of William Shatner, right? That's kind of just next level. Yeah. But the way he portrays Captain Kirk, he's a bit of a cowboy, right? He's like this intergalactic kind of cowboy. And he's a lady killer, and it doesn't matter what species the lady is. It doesn't have to be human; it could be whatever.
Yes.
And he just has this magnetism about him. And it's certainly growing up as a child, I'm like, oh, that could be me. I could be going from planet to planet, just loving aliens, and that's perfect.
That's brilliant.
So, Leanne, if you didn't give it away already with the Pike answer earlier.
Well, no, it's Janeway by far.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yes.
Excellent.
Because here is where we share something woman to woman is she loves coffee.
Okay.
Coffee black. She ain't going to mess around. She's give it to me straight up. And she doesn't mess around. She's willing to make decisions and then take ownership for them. And, being a female captain, she's had to overcome who knows what at that point when Voyager came out in the series, in the universe. And so she has to have what I would say is the heart of a rose, but the skin of a rhino. She has that vulnerability, but she can't show it because that's weakness and you don't want anybody to exploit that. So there's a lot that she's sacrificing as a woman to be in a position of leadership. And I admire that. I respect that. And I don't think a lot of people can do it. And she did. And she loves coffee. So again, we're two in the same. I think I might, like, she has a drier sense of humor, but I can also be really sarcastic. So watch out. Yeah.
Awesome. So John, how are you going to approach your role in Warrior's Death? And what does the role mean to you?
Okay. Let me show you a little something that I have here. I don't know if you can see all these books that I bought. You know, like in some sense, I'm a bit of a goofball, but like at the same time, like this is work, and I approach this, you know, the same way that I would approach anything in my professional life. So I have a stack of Klingon books here. I'm committed to learning Klingon for the role. I was really excited to see that in the script there is Klingon, and I will be speaking Klingon. I'm really pumped about that. You know, but also I want to look a little bit outside the Star Trek universe for some inspiration. So even when I was doing the audition, you know, I was thinking about, like, you know, what are these characters, you know, just in a general sense of like mythology or something. And I went back to like the prose Edda from Viking mythology, you know, and tried to incorporate some of those, you know, qualities, you know, insofar as they parallel the Klingon ideology. So I think you'll be seeing some Viking from me, but you'll also be seeing some very traditional Klingon ideas from some of the books and literature that are out there.
Okay. Leanne?
Oh, how much time do we have?
As much as you want.
So for me, like, names are very important to me. And so especially when writers or directors come up with a name, that's where I start. I look at, like, what does the character's name mean? And it seems really simple, but it's true. Like, so Anya's first name means gracious and merciful. And so for me, I'm like, okay, like, if that's what her parents chose to name her, that's significant. And she knows this also growing up, but then her name, Korea, means child of the sun. So for me, there's this real hope and light and this tender aspect to who she is and how she might have been cared for and nurtured growing up. So I really try to approach all of my characters as if they were a real person. And I know that they're in the Star Trek universe, but she's a human being. Like, this is normal to her. She doesn't, like, she's not, I'm going to space and, you know, and this is this is just like, this is a normal part of their growing up. They know this exists. They know this is real. And so for her, just like we would be, we go to get a job, we go, you know, to go into the army, and there's certain things we understand about those risks. So for her, being a medical officer, you know, I have that bachelor's of science degree. I understand that studious nature that she also has, that determination, that dedication. And so I try to think about her as a human being, you know, being put into this environment, and the qualities that make us human being expressed in a way that's, like, very real and honest to the audience. And so reading the script and seeing some of the conflicts that she is going to have, not only as a human being, but also as a professional, in which you take a Hippocratic oath for Starfleet that you're not going to do harm. Mm-hmm. And, you know, part of the oath near the end is, if I fail to do this, you know, let whatever happens, basically. So for her, some of the choices that she makes throughout the film, which I don't want to, you know, go into right now, but she really experiences a lot of conflict and a lot of moral, like, questioning.
Yeah.
But, you know, which is a lot of us. And she also has preconceived notions based on her personal experiences, how she's grown up, how she's experienced life or trauma. And that's real. We all experience things that form our perceptions about other people, form our perceptions about an entire race of people. And so that is really evident throughout this script. And so this is something that she processes and deals with. And how I want to go into it and how I see it is literally being honest about those feelings and what that would be like with her history and her growing up and her background and her experiences. So I just really approach my characters as through the lens of she's a real person and what makes her real, what makes her who she is, and researching that and bringing it into who I am. And then when you get on set, letting it all out and then trusting your director to kind of put you back into, oh, don't do that. No, you can't slap John, Leanne. Like you can't, that I was, no, you can't. But just being honest, and I could go on and on like more technically, but I think that's the core of it is we want to watch her, and I want people to watch her and be like, I can relate to that. And drawing people into that story with me, with us, to feel that and to go through that all together.
Excellent answer. So, John, where else does your fandom lie other than with Star Trek?
So many different areas. Wrestling, of course, is one of them. We talked
so famous.
Do you remember Shatner's appearance in WWE whenever he stared down Jerry Lawler?
No.
Okay, you're gonna have to go back and look that up.
Oh my god!
Wait, what?
Yeah, there's a feud where Shatner and Bret Hart came out and did this thing with Jerry the King Lawler on Raw, and I can't remember when it was exactly, but I think it was early 2000s. It was around the time that he was doing that tech show for USA Network.
Oh,
yeah,
I have to find this.
So he went on WWE Raw, and he has a couple of appearances, and then later in like 2010, they had him come on and do a segment where he reads the entrance music for Shawn Michaels and John Cena.
Oh,
and he reads it like he was in Kirk, like he's acting like Kirk. So it's all
cool.
I am the king. You know I'm sexy. It's pretty funny.
Whoa! I had no idea. I have to find out. Oh my god!
It was glorious.
And do you remember the character from WWF, Zeus?
No, I don't.
Feud with Hulk Hogan. Huge black dude. And
No,
he was even in the movie No Holds Barred.
Really? Okay. Yes, I do now. Yes,
Yeah.
now I do.
So he actually played a Klingon.
Really?
He played a Klingon.
What?
Yeah.
That's cool.
It was in, I don't even, which Star Trek series was it? It was like one of these like TBS series or something that like ran in like the early 2000s.
Huh.
Yeah, look it up. He was a Klingon in like the first season.
That's awesome. So wrestling, what else?
Wrestling, like obviously, like I'm into metal music, like
Yes.
The Surprise. Speaking of cliches, what else? I was a rower in college. I was a Division I rower, university.
Wow.
And I currently hold three American records on the rowing machine and one world record. I have won 2 gold medals at Masters World Rowing Championships. What else? There's a sport of wife carrying, dude carrying.
Yes,
I'm the former U.S. champion of that and the former U.K. champion.
You get belts or trophies?
It's kind of tough to put me in a box. Like I just kind of do what I want to do to the best of my ability, and like I just kind of follow my passions and my interests. And like this has taken me through different sports. It's taken me around the world. Like I lived in Europe for like 15 years. Like it took me to law school, like kind of all these different things. And like right now my heart is telling me that acting and entertainment in LA is what I should be doing. So that's where I am and that's what I'm doing.
Leanne?
I have fandom. From a film perspective, from a fan film perspective, I guess, in terms of like a character, you brought it up, was playing Barbara Gordon in this really awesome production put on by B Squared, and just a phenomenal group of guys. And they put out their first short film, and I was watching it, and they were local to where I live, like in the Midwest. And I was like, where are you guys? Like, this is really good stuff. And they won a ton of awards for it in some of like the Gen Con and stuff like that. And this was before that though. When I saw the cinematography and the lighting and everything, I was like, where are these guys? Like, who are they? I need to get connected with them. And they were making a sequel. And I was like, guys, if you're shooting a sequel, like, are you writing in any, like female characters? And they're like, oh, we weren't planning it. I was like, okay, well, if you ever consider it, like, just shoot me a message and, and, I think it was like just a couple days later, I got somebody that they knew. Oh, actually, I know who it was. My photographer who had done stills for them and had done some on-set photography for them had said, wait, Leanne reached out to you. Like, you need to like get her in. And they were like, what? And they're like, yeah, get her in. And so they said, well, we're going to write character. Who's your favorite? And I was like, well, I really like Wonder Woman, but, Barbara Gordon. And I didn't say Batgirl. I specifically said Barbara Gordon. Yeah. And I was like, she is, like, let me specify Barbara Gordon. Like, because Batgirl, I mean, like, anybody can like suit up and kick butt. Like, I mean, they're like, look at me, I'm awesome. Yeah. Like, but this woman, like, she experiences like a major trauma that changes her life. Like, literally
changes her life. Are you referring to
the
question for your portrayal of Barbara Gordon?
Maybe.
You're not going off the Killing Joke storyline, are you?
That's a possibility. Like, it could be. But yeah, there, based on a particular very controversial comic book that may or may not have been what you just said. Yeah. But she, and people were like, who's Barbara Gordon? And I was like, that's why they're like they're like Batman, Robin, Barbara Gordon. And everybody's like, Batman, Robin, but who's that? Batgirl. Oh, Batgirl. Yeah. And I was like, dude, who is the person behind the mask? Like, people know, they're like, oh, Dick Tracy, or Jason or Bruce Wayne, but they're like, who the heck is this? And I'm like, this is so important to me. Like, this means so much to me. Like, like, for me in Hollywood or in film, like, we have to stop seeing women at just like face value or like physically, what can they add to the film? Like, enough of that. Like, again, and, Jeremy, that's why I love you.
People can say what they want about the Killing Joke, but it gave so much depth to the Barbara character.
Yes, because it sets up everything going on future, like with Oracle and Batwoman and like the suit, like the Birds of Prey. Like, to me, she is so instrumental in that, and she had a choice. She could have chose to live out the rest of her life with a victim mentality. And she chose to see herself as a survivor and move forward. And I think, regardless of what the controversy is, what actually happened, like, in my mind, it's really clear. If if you're aware of the comics and like who the Joker is as a villain, but also as a person, and what I think he would have done and what would it. So I have a clear understanding, but I don't have to tell a viewer that. They're open to their interpretation. Yeah. And, but for me, it was just like, this moment was so important to be represented honestly, and to get to that point, and to honor women who have gone through these circumstances, and to have them see this and to be like, these are the heroes that don't get seen of as heroes. Like, we are kind of like, oh, do we talk about that? Oh, do we, we feel bad for them, but they are heroes. They are, very strong. And so I wanted to be really honest in that portrayal. And I'm so proud of my performance in that, because I don't really feel like it was a performance. I think it was genuine, to what, many women have gone through. And I think in bringing that humanity to a character that, Batgirl, but who is she really? So anyway, yes. So DC film area with Batman and all that, I guess, fandom will be built, because that film is going to be amazing. So
excellent. So the next question isn't really much of a question, but do you guys happen to know what the 60-second rule of acquisition is?
The riskier the road, the greater the reward. I
think you guys live that. If you really think about it, I mean, the path of an actor is all the risk for all of the reward. You know what I mean? I mean that it doesn't get much better than that. And like you guys said throughout this interview, all these different paths that you guys had to take, and none of them were easy. None of them were cut and dry. It was all that where you guys had to go out of your comfort zone in order to get to where both of you are today. And I would have to say that I'm happy that Jeremy pissed off Jesus, and I'm very happy that we got Leanne, because I remember waking up and Jeremy's like, so we're going to get Jesus and we're going to get Leanne. And I was like, hell yeah. And I just, initial reaction when I saw Leanne's audition, I was like, wow, like you were just so in character. And it was just so great to see somebody who truly believed in the project. And then hearing like the way you were interacted with Jeremy the first time, and, you know, that sets the precedence for the rest of the project. And he, like the way he described the way, how ambitious you were and how excited you were, it really got me excited for the project. Because then I've never really worked with people that were this level involved or had this level of fandom and what they were doing. So it's nice to see that. And the same with John. Like you guys kept saying intensity and intensity, but honestly, your audition tape was intense as they come. I mean, right in your face. Like, it's great. And that's what we wanted. And that's something I mentioned pre-show is conversations we had with Jeremy early on is whenever we thought of Klingon, is we thought savage, cave-dwelling warrior. And that's exactly what we were looking for. Hence why his hair's down. But yes, Leanne, you actually talked about it earlier about going out of your comfort zone and reaching for things. And I think that that's important for everybody going through rough times right now, that don't be afraid to go out of your comfort zone and reach for those goals and get it. Like, go get it.
You know, it's the only way to develop as a person in general, right? You know, because if this stuff was easy, anybody would be doing it. Anybody and everybody would be doing it. You know, Leanne, you know, with all of your camera time, you know, you go on camera, you expose yourself, and sometimes you bomb. You know, like
sometimes
it's just part of the game.
Definitely.
Anybody who goes on camera and has never bombed has never really given 100% to the project, because you have to be vulnerable, or else like you're not going to do something that's unique. You're not going to do something that's interesting to the audience. You know, that's what this is. So, you know, 100%. I agree with the point.
Okay. Well, I'd say that's all we have for today. Be sure to stay tuned for more stuff on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, especially from Project Louder and from my feed about Warrior's Death, Star Trek fan film coming from Brown Space Films, featuring the two lovely people I have below. And check that out sometime next year, I hope. It's going to be amazing, and we're going to make it super special for you all. So without further ado, this is your host with the most, TJ Bowser, saying see you later.
Thank you. Bye.